Before we dive in, if you love epic tales of war, strategy, hit that subscribe and like button, turn on notifications, and join our growing legion of warriors. Now, let's begin. Imagine a galaxy where ancient empires have ruled for millions of years, where every star system is meticulously controlled, and where the laws of war are written in stone by species so advanced, they view conflict as mere calculations. Now, imagine what happens when a young, unpredictable species, one forged in the crucible of war, enters the scene. A species that doesn't play by the rules. A species called humanity. For thousands of years, the Zenith hegemony held dominion over the Milky Way. Their fleets, vast and elegant, could reduce planets to molten slag in hours. Their political influence stretched across the void, binding lesser species in an iron grip of submission. War to them was not a contest of brute strength, but an equation, one they had solved long ago, until Earth entered the equation. At first, humanity was dismissed. A primitive species barely capable of interstellar travel, fragile and reckless, expanding like a virus without understanding the ancient laws that governed the stars. The Zenith observed, then issued their decree. Humanity was to be assimilated. The terms were simple. Surrender sovereignty, submit to Zenith rule, and become a vassal species. The alternative? Extinction. But the Zenith made a mistake that every conqueror in history has made when facing humanity. They underestimated us. When the Zenith fleet arrived in Seoul, expecting immediate surrender, Earth's response was silence. For a brief moment, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, without warning, humanity struck first. The battle over Jupiter's orbit would be recorded as the day the galaxy changed forever. Zenith warships, optimized for calculated engagements, were caught completely off guard. Humanity didn't fight like the others. We didn't bow, didn't break, we adapted. We hacked their networks, blinded their sensors, jammed their comms. And when their mighty fleet finally adjusted to our strategies, humanity did the unthinkable. We detonated Ganymede, the largest moon of Jupiter, obliterated in an instant. Billions of tons of rock and ice transformed into a storm of shrapnel, tearing through the Zenith armada like celestial bullets. It wasn't just destruction. It was a message. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We are human. And we will fight. The Zenith, humiliated and enraged, declared total war. What began as a simple conquest turned into something far more terrifying. Humanity was no longer just another species to subjugate. We were a threat. And in the halls of power across the galactic core, ancient empires turned their eyes toward Earth, realizing that if a single species could challenge the Zenith, then the balance of power in the galaxy itself might soon collapse. This was no longer about control. This was about survival. But the war had only just begun. The war that shook the stars. The war between humanity and the Zenith hegemony should have been over before it began. According to every calculation, every probability model, every war doctrine in galactic history, Earth was doomed. The Zenith had millions of warships, planetary bombardment fleets, cyber warfare nexuses that could dismantle entire civilizations in a heartbeat. And yet, the war didn't end. It only escalated. The battle over Jupiter had taught the Zenith a painful lesson. Humanity would not fight like their past enemies. We did not believe in honor-bound duels or ceremonial warfare. We fought with ruthlessness, deception, and ingenuity. The rules of war? We rewrote them. The Scorched Void campaign. The Zenith responded to Ganymede's destruction with overwhelming force. They deployed their infamous Sun Fury fleet, an armada capable of stripping atmospheres from planets. Their objective was simple: exterminate humanity before our defiance could spread to other species. But humanity had already spread, not just across space, but across ideas. Resistance movements were rising. Entire star systems, long bound by Zenith rule, were watching, and then the unthinkable happened. At the Battle of Tau Ceti, humanity deployed the Scorched Void Protocol, a strategy that should have been impossible. In a desperate gamble, Earth's scientists developed a method to weaponize hyperspace itself by detonating gravity bombs at precise locations. They tore rifts in space-time, creating chaotic hyperspace storms that swallowed entire Zenith fleets. Ships vanished into twisted realms of physics, never to return. The Zenith called it void cursing. For the first time in history, the conquerors of the galaxy were not just losing battles. They were afraid. The turning point. The Exodus Alliances. Humanity defied the odds. Something even more shocking occurred. Other species, long enslaved under Zenith rule, began to rise. The Varkai, an insectoid species whose homeworld had been reduced to a barren husk centuries ago, started launching raids against Zenith supply lines. The Varelians, a reptilian empire that had once bowed to Zenith rule, began feeding intelligence to human command. Even the elder houses of Xiphos, one of the most ancient and neutral powers in the galaxy, began secretly funding the war effort. A coalition was forming, but alliances alone wouldn't win the war. Humanity knew this truth better than anyone. That's why we did what no other species had ever dared to do. We took the war to the galactic core. Operation Ragnarok. The assault on the Zenith homeworld. No species had ever attacked the Zenith homeworld. Varan Prime. The fortress world was the heart of their empire, shielded by orbital defenses so advanced that even approaching the system was considered suicide. But humanity thrived on the impossible. We didn't send a fleet. We sent ghosts, black ops teams, cyber warfare AIs, sleeper agents that had infiltrated Zenith society. While the Zenith waged war on the front lines, humanity infected them from within. One by one, their security networks collapsed. Their communication systems glitched. Their power grids failed. And then, at the exact moment their defenses flickered, we struck. The sky over Varan Prime burned as orbital stations fell from the heavens. Entire Zenith fleets were locked out of their own controls, leaving them helpless as human warships rained fire upon their capital. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the Zenith bled. And deep within their shattered empire, whispers spread. Across the stars, the gods of the galaxy were falling. But the war was far from over. The fall of giants and the rise of legends. The attack on Varan Prime sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Species that had once whispered in the shadows now spoke openly of rebellion. The Zenith hegemony, once believed to be eternal, had been humbled. But humanity knew better than to celebrate. The battle was won. The war was just beginning. The Zenith were wounded. But a wounded beast is the most dangerous of all. In their desperation, they abandoned strategy for sheer annihilation. Their response was called the Extinction Mandate, a decree that turned every Zenith fleet, every colony, and every resource toward a single purpose: the total eradication of humanity. Entire human-settled worlds were glassed into oblivion. Orbital bombardments reduced cities to radioactive wastelands. The skies of Mars burned as Zenith dreadnoughts unleashed planet crackers, superweapons that tore through the crust of worlds. Earth itself was targeted. The battle for Earth, humanity's darkest hour. The Zenith Armada descended upon Sol with 10,000 warships. No negotiations, no ultimatums, only fire and death. Earth's defenders knew they were outmatched. Our fleets had fought across dozens of systems, our resources stretched thin. The battle should have been a massacre. But humanity had one final trick up its sleeve. As the Zenith fleet entered the inner solar system, they were met with an unexpected sight. An empty battlefield. No Earth warships, no defenses. Only the silent expanse of space. Then, the sun flickered. For a brief moment, the light of the solar system dimmed, as if something vast and unseen had stirred. And then, the ambush began. Humanity had built the greatest trap in galactic history. Hidden within the corona of the sun, itself, an entire fleet of cloaked warships emerged, launching solar flare cannons that turned the very power of the star into a weapon. Zenith ships were incinerated in seconds, their shields useless against the raw fury of the sun. But that was only the beginning. The Luna Defense Grid, a secret network of railgun platforms buried deep within the moon, unleashed a storm of kinetic projectiles, tearing through enemy vessels at near-light speeds. Asteroid-based EMP warheads detonated, disrupting the Zenith's advanced targeting systems. And then, humanity activated its most terrifying weapon, Project Ragnarok. Project Ragnarok. When humanity became the monster, the Zenith always believed themselves to be the apex predators of the galaxy. They believed their technology, their history, their sheer superiority would forever keep them above all others. Humanity proved them wrong. Project Ragnarok was not a weapon. It was an idea, a doctrine, a philosophy. It was the understanding that to defeat monsters, we had to become something even worse. And so, we did. Captured Zenith technology was twisted, corrupted, repurposed into horrors even the most warlike species had never dared imagine. AI-driven warships with no crews, no hesitation, no mercy. Bioweapons that could turn entire planetary atmospheres into toxic storms designed only to kill Zenith biology. Nanite swarms that infiltrated enemy ships and dismantled them from the inside, crew and all. The Zenith came to destroy Earth. Instead, they unleashed a nightmare. The Great Zenith Retreat, a species on the brink. For the first time in recorded history, the Zenith ran. Their great armada, once an unstoppable force, was shattered. The few survivors fled, not back to their empire, but into the void. Anywhere. Beyond humanity's reach. But there was nowhere to hide. Humanity pursued. We hunted them across the stars. Every stronghold, every outpost, every hidden world. They all burned. Humanity, once the underdog, was now the predator. The other galactic powers watched in terror. What had begun as a struggle for survival had transformed into something far greater. Humanity was not just winning the war. We were becoming something else, something unstoppable. And in the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers began once more. Not of rebellion, not of hope, but of fear. For the first time, the galaxy asked itself, had we just replaced one tyrant with another? But the war was not yet over, and the fate of the entire galaxy still hung in the balance. The rise of the Terran, Dominion, the Zenith hegemony, was broken. Their fleets were in ruins, their homeworld left in ashes, and their once mighty empire reduced to scattered remnants hiding in the depths of space. But humanity did not stop. We did not rest. We became the storm. The war had changed us. No longer were we just a species fighting for survival. We had become conquerors. Every battle, every world we liberated, every technology we reverse-engineered only made us stronger. And that terrified the galaxy. The galactic powers fear humanity's wrath with the Zenith's collapse. The delicate balance of power across the stars had been shattered. The elder houses of Xiphos, the Varkai Swarm, the Varelian Syndicate. Every major faction that had once feared the Zenith now turned their worried eyes toward us. They had once cheered for humanity, hoping we would be the ones to end the Zenith's tyranny. But now, they feared that we had become something far worse. For centuries, the Zenith had ruled with control and oppression. But humanity's war had been one of annihilation. Our tactics were brutal. Our weapons defied the laws of nature. Our soldiers did not just defeat the Zenith, they hunted them to extinction. And what frightened the galaxy the most was that we weren't finished. The ultimatum of Xiphos Prime. The elder houses of Xiphos, one of the most powerful neutral factions, summoned a galactic summit on their throne world, Xiphos Prime. Representatives from every surviving species attended, and at the center of it all was humanity. Our delegation was led not by politicians, but by warlords, admirals, generals, and cyber-augmented tacticians who had spent years turning the Zenith into dust. The elder speaker of Xiphos, an ancient being with over 1,000 years of wisdom, stood before the assembly and made a declaration. Humanity. The war is over. The Zenith are no more. Stand down. Withdraw your fleets. Let the stars heal. But the response from Earth's representative was colder than the void itself. The war is over. When we say it's over. That was the moment the galaxy realized the truth. The Zenith had fallen. But now, the Terran Dominion had risen. The dawn of a new empire. Across the ruins of Zenith space, humanity took control. We did not just defeat the enemy, we claimed their worlds, their technology, their resources. Former Zenith colonies were given a choice: swear loyalty to the Terran Dominion, or be left to the chaos of the void. Many worlds resisted, some fought back. But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had become unstoppable. Our war machine had evolved beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Our fleets, once ragtag remnants, now consisted of Titan-class warships powered by reverse-engineered Zenith tech. Our soldiers were enhanced beyond recognition, wielding weapons that could tear through the very fabric of reality. And then came the enforcement protocols. The enforcement protocols. Order through domination. Humanity had learned a lesson from the Zenith. Power alone was not enough. Control was necessary. New laws were established across the occupied territories. Galactic security forces patrolled every colony, ensuring absolute obedience. AI overseers monitored planetary activity, eliminating any sign of rebellion before it could begin. Puppet governments were installed on every former Zenith world, their leaders answering directly to Earth's high command. The message was clear. Humanity had not just won the war. We had claimed the galaxy itself, the last stand of the Zenith remnant. But there was still one final threat. The last remnants of the Zenith, those who had escaped the slaughter, had vanished into deep space. They were no longer an empire, but they were still dangerous. Their fleets, though few in number, were led by the most ruthless warlords the Zenith had ever produced. And in the dying embers of their civilization, they prepared for one final, desperate strike against humanity. A war of vengeance. A war that would either reclaim their lost empire or burn the galaxy down with them. And so, as humanity stood, on the edge of absolute domination, a new war loomed in the shadows. A war that would determine if the Terran Dominion would stand for eternity or crumble like the Zenith before them. The Zenith's last gambit. The war to end. All wars, the Terran Dominion stretched across the stars. Former Zenith worlds were now under human rule, and the once mighty hegemony was nothing more than scattered warbands hiding in the void. But the Zenith were not finished. Not yet. In their desperation, they enacted the last contingency plan, a final act of vengeance that could either reclaim their lost empire or drag humanity into the abyss with them. It was called Operation Oblivion, a war unlike any before. A war where the stakes were nothing short of extinction. The Omega Fleet, the Zenith's ultimate weapon. For centuries, the Zenith had prepared for the possibility of their own downfall. They had always believed themselves superior, but in the darkest depths of their paranoia, they had created something monstrous, a fleet hidden away in the unknown reaches of space, waiting for the day it would be unleashed. The Omega Fleet. It was not just a fleet, it was a doomsday armada, warships 10 times the size of anything humanity had ever faced. Reality-warping weapons that could bend gravity, tear through time, and collapse entire star systems. Ships operated by artificial minds, war machines without fear, hesitation, or weakness. A fleet designed not to rule, but to purge. The Zenith knew they could not rebuild their empire, but they could erase humanity from existence. The assault on the Terran core, it began with an attack on Earth itself. The Omega Fleet emerged from deep space rifts, bypassing all human defenses. It was a direct strike at the heart of the Terran Dominion, an act of sheer vengeance. In a matter of hours, Mars fell. The lunar defense grid was shattered. The orbital fortresses around Earth were turned into burning wreckage. Humanity had never suffered a blow like this before. The Zenith had one goal: to decapitate humanity's leadership in a single, overwhelming assault. If they could destroy Earth, they could unravel everything humanity had built. The Terran counterstrike. Humanity's most desperate hour, but humanity was not so easily broken. The attack on the Terran core did not destroy us. It awakened something far worse. For years we had ruled the stars, but we had never truly been tested. The Zenith thought they were launching their final war. Instead, they had given us a reason to become something even more terrifying. The Imperator Protocol was enacted, a directive so extreme, so brutal, that it had been locked away, deemed too monstrous to ever be used. The Dominion's fleets were no longer bound by rules of engagement. There would be no surrenders, no diplomacy, only extinction. Humanity responded with absolute fury. The Iron Armada, Earth's most elite war fleet, was deployed. Millions of warships, led by AI-controlled super dreadnoughts, capable of going toe-to-toe with Omega-class Zenith warships. Our weapons surpassed everything the Zenith had seen before. Antimatter storms that consumed entire Zenith capital ships. Quantum fragmentation. Cannons that tore through space-time, breaking enemy formations before they could react. Sentient hunter drones that infiltrated enemy ships, turning their own vessels against them. For every human world they attacked, we burned 10 Zenith strongholds to the ground. The war had become something else entirely. This was no longer about territory. This was the death of a species, the siege of the Black Expanse, the Zenith's final stand. The war led to one last battlefield. The Black Expanse, a region of space where stars did not shine, where ancient horrors lurked in the dark. It was here that the Omega fleet made its last stand. The Zenith warlords had one final plan. If they could not win, they would destroy everything. They had discovered something in the expanse, something older than the galaxy itself. A weapon, a force so powerful that even the Zenith had feared it. They called it the Abyss Engine. If activated, it would collapse reality itself, unleashing a wave of destruction that would consume the entire galaxy. They would not live to see victory. But neither would humanity. The final battle, humanity's ultimate sacrifice. The Terran Dominion launched everything it had. The battle in the Black Expanse was beyond war. It was apocalypse. Reality shattered as weapons of impossible power clashed. Entire fleets were wiped from existence in the blink of an eye. Suns were ripped apart as the Omega fleet unleashed their final weapons. But humanity would not back down. Our fleets broke through their defenses. Our warlords led suicidal charges to destroy their command ships. Entire planets were sacrificed to ensure one thing: the Abyss Engine could not be activated. And in the final moments, when all seemed lost, we won. The last Zenith warlord fell. The Omega fleet was reduced to debris. The Abyss Engine was sealed away, never to be used. The war was over, and for the first time in history, the galaxy was silent. The aftermath, the fate of the galaxy, the Zenith were gone. Their species, once the rulers of the stars, had been erased from history. The Terran Dominion had won, but victory came at a cost. Earth was scarred. Countless human worlds were lost, and worst of all, humanity had become something unrecognizable. We had set out to free the galaxy from tyranny. Instead, we had become the new gods of war. Now, as the last embers of battle faded, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. Would humanity rule with wisdom, or with an iron fist? Would we rebuild, or become the very monsters we had fought? And in the dark void beyond the stars, something else watched. Something. Waiting. The war was over. But the true battle for the fate of the galaxy had only just begun. The rise of the Terran Dominion, a galaxy under one banner. The war had ended. The Zenith were no more. Their fleets, their homeworlds, their very history, all erased in the fires of war. And yet, as the embers cooled, something far more terrifying emerged from the ashes. Humanity was now the undisputed master of the galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, there were no rivals, no empires standing in defiance, no civilizations with the strength to challenge our rule. The Terran Dominion reigned alone. But absolute power has a cost. What happens when the only ones left to fear are ourselves? The unchallenged empire. Humanity's new role with the Zenith gone, the galaxy stood in awe and horror at what remained. The Dominion's fleets patrolled every sector of known space. Human warlords, once the saviors of countless worlds, were now feared as gods of destruction. And the question that burned in the minds of trillions was simple. Would humanity rule as liberators, or as conquerors? At first, there was hope. The Dominion established a new interstellar order, vowing to protect the weaker species from the chaos left in the wake of war. Hundreds of races, once oppressed by the Zenith, swore allegiance to humanity. They welcomed the order, the stability, the promise of peace. But others feared what humanity had become. The Dominion's fleets did not leave the conquered territories. Our warships did not step down from the throne. And soon, whispers began to spread. Was the Dominion really here to protect the galaxy? Or had humanity simply replaced the Zenith as the new rulers of all? The Crimson Rebellion, the first challenge to Terran rule. It began in the outer sectors, a distant cluster of star systems where once enslaved civilizations had thrived under humanity's protection. These worlds had fought beside us, bled for us, died for us. But as the Dominion grew, so did its hunger for control. Former Zenith colonies were forcibly integrated. Entire species were required to swear absolute loyalty to Earth. Resources were extracted at a rate never before seen. To many, the Dominion was no longer a guardian. It was a new empire, an unstoppable machine of war. And so, the first revolt began. It was called the Crimson Rebellion, a coalition of former allies rising up against the very force that had once saved them. For the first time in decades, humanity's rule was challenged. The Dominion did not hesitate. The massacre of Orion's Belt. The day humanity crossed the line. The rebellion was small at first, scattered uprisings across distant systems. No real threat to the Dominion. But when the rebels seized Orion's Belt, a crucial trade route, the Dominion made a decision that would change everything. Instead of sending diplomats, they sent the purge fleets. Orion's Belt did not fall. In battle, it was eradicated. Entire planets were wiped from existence. Billions of lives, human and alien alike, were turned to ashes. Not a single rebel survived. The message was clear. The Terran Dominion does not tolerate defiance. And at that moment, something terrifying happened. The galaxy realized that humanity was no longer the hero of this story. The Terran war machine. Evolution of the ultimate empire. The massacre did not break the rebellion. It fueled it. More systems revolted. More voices rose in defiance. And in response, the Dominion did what it had always done best. It evolved. It evolved. The war machines of humanity, once designed to defeat the Zenith, were now turned against any who dared to question our rule. Titan-class dreadnoughts, warships capable of obliterating entire fleets with a single shot. Nanoplague weapons, silent, invisible viruses that could erase entire species without ever firing a bullet. Neural suppression fields, devices capable of rewriting the minds of entire populations, forcing obedience at a genetic level. The Dominion had become unstoppable, and, as the years passed, the galaxy's fate became clear. There would be no more war, no more uprisings, no more chaos, because humanity would not allow it. The Terran Dominion had become the very thing it once fought against. A force of absolute power and empire without equal, and in the darkest corners of the galaxy, something else began to stir. Something that had been watching all along. The war was over. But the true battle for the soul of humanity was just beginning. The shadows that lurk beyond, a new threat emerges. For centuries, the Terran Dominion stood unchallenged. There were no wars, no rebellions, no rivals. Humanity had accomplished what no species in history ever could, the complete unification of the galaxy. But beneath the illusion of peace, something sinister was growing. The Dominion had become its own worst enemy. And far beyond the known stars, where even human warships dared not venture, something ancient had awakened. The fall of free will. The Dominion's ultimate weapon, the neural suppression fields, had started as a last resort, a way to control rebellious populations without the need for bloodshed. But soon, it became standard practice. Entire worlds were placed under mental regulation. Cultures, traditions, even history itself was rewritten in favor of the Dominion's rule. Those who resisted, their minds were erased, their wills crushed beneath the weight of compliance. What began as protection had become totalitarian control. The Dominion had stopped calling itself an empire. It was now something greater, a hive. Humanity, once known for its unbreakable spirit, had transformed into a machine of endless expansion. There was no war, no dissent, no questioning of authority, only absolute order. And yet, not everyone had forgotten the past. The last resistance, a flicker of hope in the dark in the most distant reaches of the galaxy, beyond the Dominion's grasp. A secret brotherhood of exiles had survived, a coalition of the last free thinkers, rebels, and forgotten races. They called themselves the Revenants. Their mission? To destroy the Dominion before it destroyed everything. But they were few, scattered, a mere whisper against the storm. And so, they sought out the one thing that could turn the tide. A secret buried deep in the lost archives of the Zenith Empire. A weapon so powerful, it had been erased from history. The Forbidden Archive. A truth lost to time. The Revenants journeyed to a dead world, once part of the Zenith's empire. Beneath its scorched surface, in a ruin untouched for millennia, they uncovered what they had been searching for, a forgotten warning. The Zenith had not ruled through sheer power alone. They had discovered something buried at the very edge of reality, an intelligence beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And as the Revenants decrypted the final message left behind by the last Zenith Emperor, they realized the terrifying truth. The Zenith had never been the true rulers of the galaxy. They were merely servants, slaves to an unseen force that had guided their empire for over 1,000,000 years. A force that had been watching, waiting, preparing. And now that the Zenith were gone, it had set its gaze upon the only civilization left standing: humanity, the true masters of the galaxy. A mind beyond comprehension, the message called them the Architects, a race so advanced, so ancient, that even the gods of mythology would have feared them. They did not use ships. They did not need weapons. Their minds alone could warp the fabric of reality. They had shaped the rise and fall of countless empires before the Zenith. And now, the cycle was repeating. The Architects had been the ones who guided humanity's war against the Zenith. They had manipulated history, ensuring that one empire would fall so another could take its place. And once the Dominion had spread across the stars, reaching absolute control, that was when they would strike. Because the Architects had no use for empires. They had no need for soldiers, technology, or war. All they needed was a single thought. And in the moment of ultimate victory, when the Dominion stood atop the galaxy, humanity would simply cease to exist. The countdown to extinction. The Revenants had uncovered the truth. But time was running out. The Architects had already begun their work. Key Dominion leaders had started vanishing without explanation. Entire fleets had disappeared into the void, their crews never seen again. Planets once filled with trillions of people were now nothing but lifeless husks. The Dominion's own people were being erased from reality. And the worst part? Humanity didn't even realize it was happening. The Architects did not wage war. They did not fight battles. They simply unmade their enemies, as if they had never existed at all. And soon, the Revenants realized something even more horrifying. The Architects weren't just erasing humanity. They were erasing all memory of humanity. Entire civilizations that had once worshipped or feared the Terran Dominion now spoke as if humanity had never existed, as if Earth had never been real, as if we had been a dream all along. The countdown had begun, and if the Revenants failed, the galaxy would wake up one day and wonder why the stars were suddenly so much quieter, and why it felt like something was missing, something important, something they could no longer remember, because humanity would be gone, forever. The final war. Humanity's last stand against oblivion. The end had already begun. Across the galaxy, entire sectors vanished without a trace, not destroyed, not conquered, simply erased. Worlds that had once been teeming with life were now nothing but barren rock. Even the Dominion's most powerful AIs, vast digital minds spanning entire star systems, began forgetting their own existence. The Architects were here, and they were unmaking humanity from reality itself. The Revenants' desperate plan. There was only one hope left. The Revenants had uncovered a single weakness in the Architects' method of destruction. It wasn't their technology. It wasn't their ships. It was their method of control. The Architects did not destroy civilizations with weapons. They simply removed all memory of them from the cosmic fabric. No one could resist them. because no one even realized they were being erased. But there was a flaw. What if someone could remember? The Revenants had discovered a lost piece of Zenith technology, a device so ancient, so powerful, that it had been locked away even from their own rulers. It was called the Echo Core, a machine designed to resist the Architect's power by storing unbreakable memories. Memories that could not be erased. If they could activate it, humanity's existence could be anchored. They could make sure the Architects could never erase them. But there was a catch. The Echo Core was buried deep inside a dead system, the ruins of Zenith Prime, the first world ever consumed by the Architects, and no one who had ever set foot there had returned alive. The journey into the void. With no other choice, the Revenants launched their final mission. A single strike team, the last free humans in the galaxy, boarded their ancient warship, the Black Phoenix, and set a course for the dead world. As they approached, they saw the ruins of a billion-year-old empire stretching across the planet's surface. Massive cities, untouched by war, but completely lifeless. The sky itself was wrong. The mighty stars looked distorted, as if something was warping reality itself, and then they heard the voices, whispers, echoes of civilizations long forgotten. They weren't alone. The Architects reveal themselves. As the Revenants reached the Echo Core, reality itself began to crack. Shapes formed in the darkness. Beings without form, without physical presence but infinitely powerful. They spoke without words, and in an instant, the Revenants understood. The Architects had not created the galaxy. They had not ruled over it. They had merely watched. They had seen civilizations rise and fall for countless eons. And each time an empire grew too strong, too independent, they would be erased. To the Architects, the Dominion was already dead. Their fate had been decided before they had even begun. Your kind is not the first, nor will you be the last. You have forgotten what all others have learned. Power is an illusion. Order is temporary. Only the void remains. Now, be still. And in that moment, the Revenants felt themselves begin to vanish. Their bodies flickered, their minds unraveled. History itself began to forget them. But they had one last move. The final sacrifice. An impossible choice. The leader of the Revenants, Captain Elias Voss, had known this was a suicide mission. As the Architect's power began to consume them, he reached out and activated the Echo Core. A pulse of energy surged through the dead city. Memories flooded back, the Dominion's fleets, the billions of humans still alive, the battles, the victories, the losses, everything that had been erased was restored. For the first time in their existence, the Architects hesitated, and in that hesitation, the Revenants saw the truth. The Architects were not gods. They were parasitic caretakers, watchers that had controlled the galaxy for eons, but now, for the first time in a billion years, something had resisted, and it terrified them. The last war of the Architects. With the Echo Core activated, the Dominion awoke, the fleets returned, the people remembered. Humanity was no longer fading, and now they were angry. The Architects had spent millennia erasing civilizations before they ever became a threat. But they had never faced an enemy that could fight back. And as the Dominion's warships began appearing in orbit, thousands upon thousands of them, weapons charged, the Architects finally realized their mistake. They had waited too long. For the first time in history, the galaxy had an enemy that could not be erased. And in the depths of the void, something else was watching. The battle that changed the fate of the galaxy. The final war was unlike anything seen before. The Architects did not have fleets. They did not have weapons. They had the power of reality itself. But the Dominion had something greater: defiance. As human warships burned through the stars, the Architects tried to erase them, only to find that they could not. The Echo Core had anchored humanity in existence. And now, for the first time, the Architects felt fear. They were beings of thought, creatures of memory and perception, but humans could adapt. The Dominion scientists had studied the Echo Core, and in mere weeks, they had done something the Zenith had never imagined. They had weaponized it. Reality itself became a battlefield. The architects tried to erase their enemies, only for their own existence to be rewritten. The hunters had become the hunted, and for the first time in eternity, the architects were dying, the end of the old gods, and the dawn of something greater. The war lasted less than a year. When the last architect was finally erased from existence, the galaxy was silent. For the first time in history, the cycle was broken. There was no hidden force waiting in the shadows, no ancient gods controlling the fate of civilizations. Humanity had done what no empire before them had ever dared. They had slain the gods of the cosmos. And now, the galaxy was truly theirs. The unwritten future, the Dominion had won. But victory came with a question. What happens now? For the first time in known history, there was no hidden power controlling the stars. No one left to erase them. No one left to guide them. They were truly free. But freedom is dangerous. For 1 billion years, the architects had ensured that civilizations never reached the point of self-destruction. Now, humanity held the key to ultimate power, and as they stood at the threshold of an unknowable future, the question was no longer about their survival. It was about what kind of gods they would become. Would they be rulers, tyrants, caretakers, or would they be something different, something new? Because for the first time in history, the fate of the galaxy was in human hands, forever.